What's up everybody, it's Matt from the house, and in this video I'm going to show you how to get multiple snowboards in one bag for traveling. Let's check this out. All right, a lot of people actually do have multiple boards for multiple situations. You might have 2, maybe 3, maybe even 4 more boards, but 2 is not unheard of. And if you're taking a trip somewhere, whether you're driving or whether you're flying, a lot of times you want to be able to fit both boards in one bag. And there are definitely ways that you can do that. So where you're going and how you get there, that's going to be a big decider as to what kind of bag you're going to get. And you can watch our other video about snowboard bags to get a little bit more info on that. But in general, if you're going to be taking more than one board, you're going to need a little bit nicer bag. So bags that are like board sleeves, where you basically have a piece on the bottom and a piece on the top, those are probably going to be out. You can fit multiple boards in those, but you're going to want something a little bit nicer, like these fully padded bags where they actually have a top, a bottom, and they have walls around the entire outside. This basically gives the bag more room, not just in the middle where the bindings are, but through the entire bag. And if you want to keep bindings on both of your boards, you're 100% going to need this. So right off the bat, it's very easy if you take the bindings off of one board to actually fit multiple boards in your bag. Obviously what we're going to do is we're going to take one board with no bindings, you're going to put that in the bottom, and then you're going to take your second board with bindings and set it right on top. And you can put something like a towel or something in between if you're worried about the bottom board scratching the top board. But again, this is basically how those are going to fit in there. And you can actually fit even more boards in there as long as they don't have bindings on them. But the one thing is make sure you don't bust that 50-pound weight limit that most of the airlines have. And then if you do have a second pair of bindings for that bottom board, you will remove those. One thing that I always say is make sure you have a screwdriver, and then also take the hardware from your bindings, put it in a Ziploc bag, and then punch a hole through it with the ladder and ziplock it so that way you don't lose your hardware. Basically keeps everything together, and you're gonna go ahead and set those right on top of the board with the bindings mounted. And then you've got a little bit of room for your boots and a little bit of room for outerwear and stuff like that. So when you take the bindings off of one board, obviously you can fit that in pretty much any board bag. When you've got that nice thin board underneath, it's really not adding a lot of volume inside the bag. And again, those bindings, a lot of times you can't fit them in between, and that's where a lot of those sleeves have that extra room. Sometimes they don't actually have it up in the nose and tail. If you're gonna be flying, you definitely want that fully padded bag. Fully padded bags, basically, if your board gets damaged, the airline will cover it. If you do not have a fully padded bag and you fly and the airline damages your board, they will not compensate you because you didn't have it in the proper bag. So now, if you wanna fit 2 boards with bindings in a bag, it is possible, but there are definitely some things you should know, especially if you're gonna be buying a bag. One, when you're buying bags, a lot of times they do come in different sizes. You might see a bag that comes in a 56, and then there's also a 66, and then there's a 181 version of that exact same bag. Right off the bat, you think to yourself, oh, hey, I've got this 155, I'm gonna buy the 156 board bag. Usually that's gonna be true. However, if you wanna fit 2 boards with bindings, you're gonna need at least the 166. So obviously this 155 is gonna fit nice and easy inside of a 156 board bag because it is smaller and it's actually rated. A lot of times you can even get a 57, maybe a 58, depending on the bag. Sometimes you can fudge it in there. But when you wanna put that second board in there with the bindings, the problem is you need to go bindings up and bindings down on your second board. And you can't do that right in the middle. Well, a lot of times one of the bindings is gonna get in the way of the other binding. So you're gonna need that extra room to actually shift the board all the way to one side. Now when we grab our second board and we flip it bindings down, we've got a little bit of extra room to actually get the nose in and for this binding to sit just outside of this binding. So you can see it actually makes your boards longer. This board is hanging that way a little bit more, and then this board is hanging this way a little bit more. If you tried to do this with the 155 on the bottom in a 156 centimeter bag, it's just not gonna work because we've actually added, this 155 is actually right against the end here, but it's only going to about right here inside the bag. So we need that extra room basically for the binding. You need basically an extra binding width. Now when we go ahead and flip this over, we can obviously zip the bag up, and we've got 2 boards in one bag. Now there is still a little bit of room in there. You might be able to sneak in some boots, But most of the time with this, when you've got those kicks, they're gonna be offset too. There's not gonna be room for boots to go in between there. So a lot of times you're gonna have to carry your boots in your other luggage, but you can still fit soft things like your jacket, your gloves, you know, anything that's kind of smaller will fit inside this bag. So it's not like you only have to carry 2 boards in this bag. But again, as long as you don't hit that 50-pound weight limit, a lot of times you're not gonna get hit with anything extra at the airport. One thing that is notable too is I've seen that some airlines will actually charge you for having multiple boards in one bag. So definitely check with your airline that you're flying with to make sure you know the rules. So if they do have those stipulations, a lot of times you can sneak a board without bindings underneath your board with the bindings, but again, you're gonna have to take the bindings off for that, and I would definitely cover it up with a towel or something so it's not super obvious that you actually have 2 boards inside the bag. So as you can see, it obviously is completely possible to get a couple boards into one bag, but it does depend on the bag. And if you wanna leave the bindings on, one, you're gonna need a very, very nice bag that has a lot of room, not just in the middle, but at the nose and tail as well. And you're gonna have to do a little bit of math. Make sure that you buy the bag that's 1 or 2 sizes bigger. So there definitely are a lot of things to take into consideration when you are traveling with multiple boards, especially if you're traveling with multiple boards and multiple bags. Check with your airlines, check out the fees. It might actually be cheaper to travel with 2 board bags that are a little bit smaller versus 1 big board bag with 2 boards in it. But definitely do a little bit of math and it can save you some hassle and it can save you some money in the future. But if you got any questions beyond what we talked about in the video, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We want to make sure we get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we want to make sure that it's actually going to fit you and your needs for when you're riding and traveling. Also make sure to like, subscribe, definitely get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop, and grab yourself a bag, get yourself to your destination, and get out and ride, because any day of riding is a good day of riding.